The red car mystery. Timmy Rodriguez bounced on the balls of his feet, sketchbook clutched tight. Sunlight warmed his face as he neared the garage. Today was the day. The day he'd finally translate the swirling images in his head onto paper, the day he'd birth Captain Comet, defender of truth and, well, homework completion. The school's superhero contest loomed, and Timmy was determined to win. He rounded the corner of the house, his anticipation solidifying into a frown. Parked directly in front of his garage door, gleaming under the midday sun, was a cherry-red sports car. It was so shiny it almost hurt to look at it. Seriously, Timmy muttered, his superhero dreams deflating like a punctured balloon. He marched closer, peering into the tinted windows. Empty. He circled the car, searching for a note, a scrap of information, anything. Nada. Just pristine paint and ridiculously oversized tires. He tried the doorbell of the house next door. No answer. He walked to the house on the other side. A woman with curlers in her hair peeked through the blinds. "You seen who owns the red car?" Timmy asked, trying to keep the exasperation out of his voice. "Nope," she snapped, and the blinds slammed shut. Timmy sighed. His superhero drawing mojo was fading fast. He kicked a loose pebble, sending it skittering across the driveway. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a deliberate act of garage-blocking villainy. He imagined Captain Comet swooping down, lifting the car with his super strength and gently placing it somewhere else. Somewhere far, far away. But Timmy wasn't Captain Comet, and the car was still blocking his garage. He trudged back to his house, a new, less heroic idea beginning to form in his mind. Enter Karen. The bell above the bakery door jingled, and out she waltzed, a vision in oversized sunglasses and a floral print dress that strained at the seams. A pristine white box, undoubtedly filled with overpriced cupcakes, was clutched in her manicured hands. This had to be her. Timmy took a deep breath, trying to maintain a semblance of calm. "Excuse me, ma'am," he began, forcing a smile. "I think you're parked in front of my garage. Could you possibly move your car?" She stopped dead, her eyes, magnified by the sunglasses, narrowed. "I'll only be a minute," she snapped, her voice a surprisingly deep rumble. "Can't you see I'm busy?" Timmy gestured to the garage door, now shimmering under the oppressive afternoon sun. "Yeah, but I need to get in. I have a project I'm working on." He didn't mention the superhero contest. That felt too vulnerable in the face of her dismissive glare. Karen sighed dramatically, shifting the weight of the cupcake box. The aroma of vanilla frosting hung heavy in the air, a sickly sweet counterpoint to Timmy's rising frustration. "Honestly, the inconvenience. I just popped in for a little treat. It's not like I'm blocking the entire street." She adjusted her sunglasses, the movement sharp and decisive. "I'll move it eventually." With that, she turned her back on him and teetered towards her car. A monstrous SUV that looked like it belonged in a safari rather than a suburban neighborhood. The engine roared to life, filling the air with a guttural growl. Cupcake chaos. Timmy checked his watch again. 10 minutes. 10 precious minutes bleeding away while his Captain Comet masterpiece remained trapped behind Karen Miller's obnoxious SUV. The superhero art contest deadline loomed. A monstrous countdown clock ticking in his head. He could practically taste the victory. A brand new art tablet, finally replacing his cracked hand-me-down. All he needed was 30 minutes of uninterrupted garage time. Through the bakery window, Timmy saw Karen. Not leaving. Not even paying. Ordering. More. Cupcakes. He could see her gesticulating wildly, her voice, though muffled by the glass, radiating its usual shrill impatience. What flavors was so critical that they superseded common decency? He knocked on the bakery window, a frantic tattoo against the sugary serenity within. Karen glanced up, her expression sour. He mimed pointing at his watch, then at her car, then a desperate, pleading gesture toward his garage. Karen rolled her eyes, a dramatic flourish worthy of a soap opera villain. She turned back to the counter, launched into an animated discussion about frosting consistency, and completely dismissed him. Timmy felt a frustrated yell building in his throat, a yell that threatened to shatter the delicate sugar sculptures displayed near the window. He squeezed his eyes shut, fighting it down. Yelling wouldn't move her car. It wouldn't get him into the garage. It certainly wouldn't win him the art tablet. But what would? Grandpa's gift. Timmy slumped onto the porch swing, though groaning in protest. Defeated. He'd imagined spending the afternoon putting the finishing touches on his Captain Comet versus the Parking Peril drawing. The deadline for the comic book contest loomed, and his masterpiece was trapped. Mocked. Behind Karen's obnoxious SUV. He kicked listlessly at a loose stone, sending it skittering across the cracked concrete of the yard. His gaze drifted to the far corner where the hulking, faded yellow form of his grandpa's old forklift sat, half hidden beneath a tarp. Grandpa Rodriguez had sworn it could lift a small house back when it was still running. Now it was just a rusty monument to a bygone era of the family's hardware business. A wave of dust motes danced in the sunlight slanting across the yard. Timmy coughed, then stared at the forklift. An idea, mischievous and undeniably crazy, began to bloom in his mind. It was a long shot. He hadn't touched the thing in years. And even if he could get it started. He imagined Karen's face. A grin stretched across Timmy's face. He hopped off the swing, a renewed energy surging through him. The comic book contest. Captain Comet. Justice. It all hinged on this. He ripped the tarp off the forklift, the canvas tearing with a satisfying rip. The sun glinted off the dusty metal, beckoning him. He climbed into the driver's seat, the worn vinyl sticking to his jeans. This was either going to be epic or a complete disaster. He jammed the key into the ignition. The forklift adventure. The engine coughed like a chain smoker trying to quit. Timmy pumped the gas pedal, a plume of black smoke belching from the forklift's exhaust. Finally, with a shuddering groan, it roared to life. The vibrations rattled through Timmy's teeth as he wrestled with the steering wheel, a rusty circle of iron older than he was. Karen's ridiculous red convertible, a beacon of automotive arrogance, loomed closer. He adjusted the speed, creeping forward inch by painstaking inch. The stench of exhaust fumes filled the air, stinging his nostrils. He squinted, focusing on the task at hand. Any miscalculation, and he'd be paying for Karen's paint job out of his already meager savings. The superhero drawing contest was his only shot at getting that new graphics tablet. He stopped a few feet from the car, the forklift idling roughly. A flock of pigeons scattered from the roof of the building across the alley, their startled coos echoing in the confined space. Timmy killed the engine, the sudden silence amplifying the thumping of his own heart. Now for the tricky part. He fiddled with the levers, raising the prongs of the forklift. They scraped against the concrete floor with a screech that made him wince. He needed to get the angle just right, sliding them under the car without damaging anything vital. He pictured the undercarriage, the vulnerable pipes and wires, and swallowed hard. This was definitely more complicated than drawing Captain Comet fighting Dr. Disappointment. With a deep breath, Timmy restarted the engine, the familiar rattle a grim reminder of the task ahead. To the roof, the forklift emitted a high-pitched groan, a metal leviathan protesting Karen's disastrous parking. Sweat slicked Timmy's palms as he wrestled with the levers. Slowly, painstakingly, the teal Corolla ascended. His concentration was absolute, a mental plumb line guiding his every move, compensating for each tiny shift with barely perceptible nudges. The sun blazed, its glare bouncing off the gritty windshield. Just a little more, he murmured, a solitary prayer offered to the indifferent heavens. The garage roof, a looming precipice, drew nearer. Last year's reinforcement project, once a mere precaution, now felt like divine providence. Despite meticulous measurements, a seed of uncertainty sprouted in his mind. What if his calculations were flawed? What if the structure buckled? He banished the thought. Retreat was no longer an option. At last, the Corolla's roofline surpassed the edge. Timmy inched it forward, the forklift's wheels grinding on the loose stones beside the garage. He envisioned a perfect placement, a grand unveiling. Centered, the car's tires settled firmly on the sturdy beams. He switched off the motor. A hush fell, disturbed only by the cricket serenade from the weedy lot next door. Timmy gazed at the vehicle, an absurd trophy of parking gone awry. He pictured Karen's reaction, a slow smile spreading across his face. This had transcended the mere drawing contest. It was a declaration. Freedom was at hand, the garage doors about to be opened to his creative explosion. Karen's comeuppance. Karen emerged from sprinkles of Joy Bakery, a sugary sweet smile plastered on her face. 12 pastel-frosted cupcakes nestled in a pink box, a reward for surviving the horror of choosing between buttercream and ganache. That's when she saw it. Her cherry-red convertible, gleaming under the midday sun, perched precariously on the bakery's roof. A shriek ripped from her throat, a sound so high-pitched it startled a flock of pigeons from the nearby oak tree. The pink box slipped from her grasp. Cupcakes launched into the air, a sugary explosion of sprinkles and frosting. They landed with pathetic plops on the sidewalk, staining the gray concrete with dollops of sweetness. My car. My baby. Karen wailed, clutching her chest. Her perfectly coiffed blonde hair threatened to unravel in the sudden breeze. A crowd began to gather, drawn by the commotion and the bizarre sight of a car inexplicably parked on a roof. Timmy Rodriguez, sketchbook clutched under his arm, pushed through the onlookers. He needed to get to his garage to finish his superhero drawing for the town's contest, but Karen's ridiculous convertible was blocking the entrance. He stopped dead, mouth agape. "Is that Mrs. Miller's car?" On the roof, he muttered half to himself. Karen, oblivious to Timmy and the growing audience, began pacing frantically. "This is a nightmare. A complete and utter nightmare. How am I supposed to get to my Pilates class?" Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her mascara. "Someone call the police. Call AAA. Call Oprah." Officer Riley arrives. A ripple of giggles turned into a wave of laughter as more townsfolk gathered. Karen, oblivious, emerged from the bakery, a pink box overflowing with cupcakes clutched in her hands. Her smile faltered as she took in the scene. A small crowd pointing and snapping photos, and her beloved convertible perched precariously on Timmy's garage roof. The pink box slipped, cupcakes tumbling onto the sidewalk, icing side down. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. A police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing, scattering the onlookers slightly. Officer Riley, a man whose face seemed permanently etched with a wry smile, stepped out. He surveyed the bizarre tableau, the car, the cupcakes, the agitated Timmy, and chuckled softly. "All right, what's all this then?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Karen launched into a tirade about vandalism and personal property, her voice shrill. Riley held up a hand, silencing her. "Let's hear the other side, ma'am." He turned to Timmy, his expression softening. "Now, Timmy, I know you. You're not usually one for rooftop car displays. What happened?" Timmy, still fuming but slightly calmed by Riley's presence, explained how Karen's car had been blocking his garage for over an hour, preventing him from getting his delivery truck out. He showed Riley the photos he'd taken of the empty street, proving there were plenty of other places to park. "I asked her nicely, officer. She just waved me off and went inside for cupcakes." He gestured to the forklift parked innocently beside the garage. "What else was I supposed to do? Superhero triumph. This is highway robbery." Karen screeched into her phone, the receiver practically vibrating with her fury. $200 just to move my car a few feet? It's a conspiracy, I tell you." She slammed the phone shut, the cherry-red nails on her left hand still sticky with pink frosting. The cupcake order for the bake sale wasn't going to fill itself. Outside, the tow truck driver, a man whose face was permanently etched with weary resignation, wrestled with the winch. Karen's shiny sedan remained stubbornly perched halfway down the makeshift ramp, its tires spinning uselessly against the slick metal. He cursed under his breath, the sound swallowed by the roar of the engine. The whole operation reeked of burnt rubber and desperation. Meanwhile, inside his small apartment, Timmy Rodriguez was putting the finishing touches on his drawing. He meticulously shaded the tow truck struggling with the bright red car, adding exaggerated details like cartoonish steam hissing from the engine and tiny, panicked figures waving their arms. It wasn't just a drawing of a car, it was a story, a moment captured in vibrant colors. Later that evening, the school auditorium buzzed with the excited chatter of children and proud parents. Timmy stood on stage, clutching his certificate, his eyes wide with disbelief. "First prize." The art teacher, Ms. Davison, beamed. Timmy's piece perfectly captured the theme of a day in our neighborhood. The judges were particularly impressed by the dynamic composition and the, shall we say, unique subject matter. Timmy glanced at his parents, a shy smile spreading across his face. Maybe getting blocked into his garage wasn't so bad after all.